another TE EV review. Perhaps one of the harshest EV critics out there, because I don't do car reviews, I do EV reviews. And I don't have to pander to the auto companies in case they want to stop lending me their cars if I give them a bad review, or stop advertising with me. Therefore, I'm free to be as objective as I like. Okay, well, obviously as objective as a Tesla shareholder can be. Now, BMW was my favourite legacy brand prior to Tesla, before disrupting my enthusiasm for autos altogether. I have owned half a dozen BMWs, including M versions, and followed their model lineup relentlessly. It's the legacy manufacturer I am most familiar with. Now, there are not actually very many electric sedans, at least not from the legacy autos, and very few competing against the Model 3. I have to say, the BMW does look quite good overall, with the exception of the front grille. We don't need grilles anymore. Let the past go, BMW. But they can't. A lot of legacy autos have branded themselves on their grilles, especially the Germans. Look at BMW, Mercedes and Audi. Their grilles are their signature. The old executives in these companies are not willing to let go of their heritage or branding. In all honesty, Tesla couldn't start with either. Look at the old Model S's with a big black plastic oval in the front. It can be hard to let go of the past. But aside from that, I am happy to say that this is a good looking car. The side is nice, although they could have better door handles like the S. The rear looks good too, but they also have an area that looks like where the exhaust pipe should go. Like, again, they can't let go of the past. The interior is actually good looking for a legacy auto. It's kind of tidy, but compared to a Tesla, well, it looks the opposite. After owning a Tesla for just a couple of weeks, then you get used to the minimalism, and everything else just looks untidy. It's all unnecessary and adds to design constraint and further cost. BMW have what looks like a full-on gear stick in the center with tons of buttons, and an iDrive dial, even though the screen is touchscreen. Right, the screen. Okay, it's nice and big, so at least they are getting larger, but it needs to be like an iPad. Legacy autos are not ready to commit. They still want a screen in front of the driver too, and seem to think it's clever to attach the two. This is primitive thinking. Also, even if you could watch YouTube on it, then it's going to be a very small display, because below so much room is taken up with more buttons. But not just buttons, and this might be the ugliest part of the car, air vents. Ooh, gross. I don't want to see air vents in cars anymore. They look so dated. Why can't Legacy stop using air vents? They just can't let go of too much of their past. They're struggling, and I'm not even referring to their ICE business. The seats look alright, except they're probably lined with dead cow skin. Tesla's vegan leather, I am sure, is nicer. Tesla seats are some of the most comfortable I've ever sat in, although I haven't done a long road trip yet, but I do look forward to it. Really though, there are just so many bits and pieces in this car, and don't get me wrong, I used to love all the buttons in a BMW. I remember being a teenager and getting into a BMW 7 Series, and all these buttons that did all these cool things you could press, but less is certainly more now. I think BMW are really struggling to let go of the past, and if it's present just in what we can see in and on the car, then we can only imagine it's the same with the internals that we can't see. Everything has been compromised, a committee of old execs versus people trying to adapt to the future, and everyone compromising, which leaves just that, a compromised car for the sake of it. Oh, and like always, as you expect with Legacy, nothing at all like their concept. What happened to the fully glass roof? Oh, I think I might now know the issue here. Right, here's a theory. Perhaps concept EVs are easy, but production EVs, well, maybe they are really difficult. Oh, and then to hit volume production, well, maybe that is even harder again, perhaps very hard. Oh, and then volume production with a profit, well, perhaps that's close to impossible. Unless perhaps you could hire a team of rocket scientists or something to aid you along the way. Maybe, just a theory. Oh dear, we've only basically looked at the design, and already the BMW is not doing that well. But this really is only because we have a benchmark called Tesla. No EVs ever do well with my reviews because of this benchmark. On the other hand, if we were to compare it with some of the legacy auto EV sedans, then what is there? The Taycan, Audi GT, Mercedes EQS, well, they're all Model S competitors. Am I right in assuming that this is the only legacy Model 3 competitor? Unless we're including Polestar. The legacy autos tend to either compete against the Model S or the Model Y. Okay, sure, here come the specs, and we probably know how this will go. BMW offered two versions of the i4, an eDrive 40 and an M50. Now, for once, we have a legacy manufacturer who is not hiding its EV specs on their website. The 40 version is the long-range version and has 300 miles of range EPA, with 0 to 60 of 5.5 seconds, and this starts at $55,000. The Tesla Model 3 long range is $51,000, and has a range of 358 miles. Although on the overview page it shows 334 miles. If anyone listening works at Tesla, the website is showing discrepancies on range for every single model currently. You might want to take a look at that, at least at the time of this video. And the Tesla has 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. So it absolutely obliterates the BMW on paper and value for money. Then we can compare the M version. Fortunately for BMW, M stands for motorsport, and these cars do still have motors, so they can keep their M branding, unlike Porsche with turbo. So the M50, and I'm not entirely sure what these 40 and 50 numbers signify, to be honest. The M version does 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds, which is pretty fast for a BMW, compared to the M4 ICE version at 3.8 seconds, which is actually well over $70,000 compared to the i4 at only $66,000. But as we always witness, like with the Taycan, whenever legacy autos try and get performance out of their electric vehicles, it's always a huge sacrifice of range. It only has 245 miles of range. Right, so pretty much what we expected. But it would seem that BMW are trying to find their place in the EV market, very similar to what Mercedes have done. They decided their brand was more valuable than Tesla's, but their electric cars are less valuable than their AMG series or M series. Tesla is a new brand in a new industry, so the legacy autos are trying to all find their position within it relative to Tesla. Oh, and all these Teslas pretty much come fully optioned too, with larger wheels as standard and all the safety and autopilot features, because at Tesla, they don't think the customer should have to pay extra to try and save lives. All these extras would cost more on the BMW. Obviously, this is not competition for Tesla, as we knew it wouldn't be from the start. And as usual, BMW won't be able to make enough of these cars and won't hit a profit. If Tesla was not a thing, then I'd probably covet this car and possibly even buy it. Oh wait, except if Tesla wasn't a thing, then I wouldn't have made a fortune in the stock market either, and would likely have had a portfolio that only went up 3 or 4 times instead of 20 times. It was only fair that I showed my appreciation by buying a Tesla. It was the least I could do, although saying that, I have a surprise for you soon too. Now, on the other hand, if BMW were able to improve their range and performance, use Tesla's FSD, Tesla's interactive screen, remove about 95% of those buttons, remove the air vents, go vegan, adopt Tesla's supercharging network, let go of some of those antiquated design features, then perhaps this car would be alright. But good luck trying to explain that to the executives enjoying their massive dividends from selling ICE. Yeah, how can you convince legacy autos to give up those huge dividend checks? They have expensive lifestyles. Manors and yachts have certain upkeep each year. These companies need to be making huge losses if they want to do what is right. If they're still making profits, then they won't last. The only value they really have is their brand. The rest is pretty much expendable, particularly as we're seeing that the new Chinese startups are perfectly capable of making electric cars. Not even their old powertrains are up to scratch. Porsche had to buy 45% stake in the electric car company Rimac just to get their powertrain technology. The EV industry is not legacy auto's game, as much as online search, aka Google, was not the phone books. Okay, I hope that was a genuinely objective review, but I have braced myself for the comments of I'm just a Tesla fanboy, and I would say that, well, aside from a fanboy, I know my pluses and my minuses. I can even do division and work out percentages, and BMW is no match for Tesla. But I'm sure they can sell every one they make, unfortunately at a loss. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.